Are we seriously watching two mid-season acquisitions completely implode before our very eyes? Because that's exactly what's happening with Dakota Joshua and Matias Maxelli in Toronto right now. And folks, the frustration isn't just brewing. It's boiling over like a pressure cooker ready to explode. The Toronto Maple Leafs made calculated moves last summer, investing precious draft capital and nearly $7 million in cap space on these two players. They weren't expecting Wayne Gretzky or Bobby or to walk through those doors, but they absolutely expected something. Some spark, some energy, some tangible contribution to justify the investment. Instead, radio silence, complete and utter disappointment. And as we approach the halfway mark of this season, the whispers around Scotiabank Arena are getting louder. These guys might not make it a spring in Maple Leafs blue. Let's not sugarcoat this. Jeff O'Neill dropped a truth bomb this week that resonated throughout the hockey world. Joshua and Maxelli have done jack squat for this hockey team since coming here. Harsh? Absolutely. Accurate? Unfortunately, yes. When you break down the numbers, the eye test, and the overall impact these players have had on Toronto's roster, you're staring at a masterclass in underperformance. This isn't about one bad game or a rough week. This is about two players who have fundamentally failed to integrate into Craig Berube's system over an extended period. And in the cutthroat world of NHL hockey, especially in a market like Toronto where every shift is dissected and analyzed, that kind of prolonged struggle doesn't just raise eyebrows. It raises serious questions about roster construction and future planning. The organization invested significant resources into these acquisitions. Mid-round draft picks might not sound like much to casual fans, but in today's NHL, where depth and development pipelines are crucial, those picks represent potential future contributors. Combine that with the cap space allocation in an era where every dollar matters, and you've got a recipe for organizational frustration that's reaching critical mass. Let's start with Matias Maxelli, because the situation perfectly encapsulates what happens when player acquisition doesn't align with coaching philosophy. Toronto brought him in expecting skill, finesse, and offensive creativity to bolster their middle six forward group. What they got instead was a player who looks completely lost in Craig Berube's demanding, high-pressure system. Berube's coaching philosophy isn't complicated. It's built on pace, relentless pressure, and winning physical battles. He wants forwards who can forecheck aggressively, win puck battles in the corners, and create turnovers through sheer determination and physicality. Maxelli? He's none of those things. He's not big, he's not particularly fast, and his game is predicated on finesse and skill rather than grinding it out in the trenches. The disconnect is painfully obvious every time he steps on the ice. While his teammates are crashing and banging, fighting for every inch of ice, Maxelli looks like he's playing a different sport entirely. His recent admission speaks volumes. It's just trying to play my own game, but at the same time trying to play smart and not have too many turnovers. Translation? He's caught between two worlds, trying to be himself while simultaneously trying to fit into a system that fundamentally contradicts his natural playing style. Berube's message to Maxelli has been crystal clear and brutally simple. Win your battles, be harder on pucks, and stop gifting the opposition easy transition opportunities. But here's the problem. That's like asking a fish to climb a tree. Maxelli's entire hockey identity is built on something completely different, and no amount of coaching adjustments or motivational speeches can fundamentally change a player's DNA overnight. The TSN Overdrive crew absolutely nailed it when Brian Hayes and company turned Maxelli's name into a verb, suggesting he can't keep trying to Maxelli this thing. It's become shorthand for a player stubbornly sticking to an approach that clearly isn't working. If he can or won't bring a different component to his game, physicality, speed, defensive responsibility, then his days in Toronto are numbered, and that countdown is accelerating rapidly. The occasional point on the score sheet doesn't mask the underlying issues. Hockey analytics paint an even grimmer picture. His defensive metrics are concerning. His transition game creates more problems than solutions, and his overall impact on team performance ranges from negligible to actively detrimental. Toronto thought they could carve out a specialized role for a finesse winger in Berube's system, creating a hybrid approach that maximized skill while maintaining structure. So far, that experiment has failed spectacularly. If Maccelli's problem is stylistic incompatibility, Dakota Joshua's situation is somehow even more frustrating because, on paper, he should be thriving. At 6 feet 3 inches and nearly 210 pounds, Joshua possesses the exact physical profile that should flourish in a Berube system. He's got the size, the reach, and theoretically, the ability to be a disruptive force down low. Instead, he's been a ghost, invisible, ineffective, and utterly forgettable. Nick Kiprios identified the core issue perfectly: pace. Joshua moves like he's skating through molasses. He's consistently late to pucks, arrives at forechecks a half second after the play is already developed, and fails to create the kind of sustained pressure and chaos that Berube's system demands from power forwards. In today's NHL, where speed and quick transitions dominate, a big body without corresponding foot speed is essentially useless. The numbers tell a devastating story. 5 points in 22 games is replacement-level production. The kind of output you'd expect from a fourth-line energy player, not someone who was acquired with the expectation of contributing meaningful offense. But the offensive drought is only part of the problem. Joshua's defensive metrics are among the worst on the entire roster, which is absolutely unacceptable for a player his size and supposed offensive capabilities. What makes Joshua's struggles particularly maddening is that he rarely makes glaring, highlight reel mistakes. He's not taking bad penalties. He's not turning the puck over in dangerous areas, and he's not getting caught out of position in ways that directly lead to goals against. But here's the thing. In professional hockey, not making mistakes is enough. You need to actively tilt the ice in your team's favor, create opportunities, generate momentum shifts, and impact winning. Joshua does none of that. Several analysts have noted that Joshua is essentially a neutral presence on the ice. He doesn't hurt you, but he doesn't help you either. In a salary cap era where roster spots are precious and every player needs to contribute, being neutral is the same as being a liability. The Maple Leafs need impact players, difference makers who can swing momentum and create advantages. What they're getting from Joshua is a large body taking up space and accomplishing nothing. His own words reveal the growing pressure. There's no time to be the new guy anymore. He's right. The grace period is over. The excuses about adjustment and learning a new system have expired. It's late November. We're approaching December. And if you haven't figured out by now, you probably aren't going to. Inside the Maple Leafs organization, the frustration with both players has reached levels that are starting to leak into public view. And in the buttoned-up world of professional sports management, that's significant. When frustration becomes visible, when coaches start making pointed comments in press conferences and analysts start openly questioning roster decisions, you know the situation has deteriorated beyond the point of quiet internal discussions. Craig Berube isn't known for patience with underperforming players. His coaching track record shows a clear pattern. If you don't buy into the system, if you don't bring the required intensity and compete level, you don't play. Period. Both Joshua and Maxelli have already been healthy scratches, which in NHL terms is equivalent to being put in the penalty box for disappointing your teacher. It's a public statement that says, your performance isn't meeting standards. The Wednesday overtime victory against Columbus provided temporary relief, but it didn't mask the underlying problems. The Maple Leafs aren't playing well as a cohesive unit, and too many players, Joshua and Maxelli prominently among them, are contributing nothing to collective effort. They're passengers on a team that needs drivers, spectators in a game that demands participants. Management is facing a difficult reality. The summer acquisitions haven't worked. Sometimes in professional sports, despite all the scouting, analytics, and careful planning, moves simply don't pan out. The question now isn't whether these players have struggled. That's established fact. The question is what Toronto does about it. Neither Joshua nor Maxelli is fundamentally unfixable as NHL players. In different systems, with different coaching philosophies and different role expectations, both could potentially find success. But here's the harsh truth. The Toronto Maple Leafs don't have the luxury of time and patience required for extensive rehabilitation projects. This is a franchise with Stanley Cup aspirations, operating in the most demanding hockey market in the world. With a core group of elite players in their prime years, every roster spot matters. Every cap dollar needs to be optimized. And right now, both Joshua and Maxelli represent dead weight, assets that aren't appreciating. investments that aren't paying dividends. Trade speculation isn't just idle media chatter anymore. It's becoming a legitimate strategic consideration for Brad Treliving and the front office. As we approach the Christmas roster freeze and start looking ahead to the trade deadline, both players are increasingly likely to find themselves on the trading block. The challenge, of course, is finding trade partners willing to take on players who have demonstrably struggled. Other general managers aren't stupid. They watch the same games, see the same analytics, and understand that Toronto is trying to move underperforming assets. That limits leverage and potentially forces Toronto to retain salary or accept less than ideal returns. But sometimes addition by subtraction is the right move. Sometimes clearing roster spots and cap space, even if you don't get equivalent value back, is necessary to create opportunities for players who might actually contribute. The Maple Leafs have organizational depth, prospects in the AHL who might bring more energy and impact than what Joshua and Maccelli are currently providing. This situation raises uncomfortable questions about Toronto's evaluation and acquisition process. How did the organization miss so badly on the fit between these players and Berube's system? Were there red flags during the scouting process that were ignored or minimized? Did management and coaching fail to communicate effectively about the type of players needed? These aren't just rhetorical questions. They have real implications for future roster construction. If Toronto can't accurately assess how players will fit into their system, if there's a disconnect between what management acquires and what coaching demands, then these problems will repeat themselves. The Joshua and Maxelli situation becomes a cautionary tale rather than an isolated incident. The salary cap era demands precision in roster building. There's no room for error, no margin for miscalculation. Every acquisition needs to work. Every dollar needs to be maximized, and every roster spot needs to contribute. When moves fail this spectacularly, it creates ripple effects throughout the organization, limiting flexibility, constraining options, and potentially costing the team valuable opportunities to improve. The next few weeks will be telling. If Joshua and Maxelli can't find a way to significantly elevate their games, if they can't demonstrate value that justifies their roster spots and cap hits, then trade discussions will intensify rapidly. Brad Treliving didn't build his reputation by being sentimental or patient with underperforming assets. He makes hard decisions when necessary. For Joshua and Maxelli, the message is clear. Produce or pack your bags. The grace period is over. The excuses are exhausted, and the organizational patience is depleted. They need to find ways to impact games positively, contribute to team success, and justify the investment Toronto made in acquiring them. Anything less, and they'll be watching the second half of the season from different cities, wearing different uniforms. The brutal reality of professional hockey is that performance matters above all else. Potential doesn't keep you in the lineup. Draft pedigree doesn't protect you from accountability. And past success in other organizations doesn't guarantee future opportunities. You're only as good as your last shift, your last game, your last week of performance. This is a pivotal moment for the Toronto Maple Leafs, not just regarding Joshua and Maxelli specifically, but in terms of organizational identity and decision-making philosophy. How management handles this situation will send messages throughout the roster about accountability, expectations, and consequences for underperformance. The clock is ticking. The pressure is mounting. And for two players who came to Toronto with hopes of contributing to a championship run, the dream is rapidly turning into a nightmare. Whether they can salvage their Toronto tenures or become cautionary tales of failed acquisitions remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The status quo is unsustainable and change is coming. What do you think the Maple Leafs should do with Joshua and Maxelli? Should they give them more time to adjust? Or is it time to cut losses and explore trades? Drop your thoughts in the comment below. And don't forget to smash that like button if you want more hard-hitting Maple Leafs analysis.